Hello, my friendly acquaintances. We are back with William Mandelbaum, former attorney for decades. He's been on this channel before, longtime follower and contributor. You heard me talk about Russian caravan tea a few years ago, Lapsang Souchong, Syrian Latakia. Well, this is the gentleman that I got it from. He's a fellow cigar and pipe aficionado and fine spirits. And I'm not talking about the spirits that are flying around, I'm talking about the spirits in a glass. But today we're going to be talking about saving thousands in legal fees while you're going through a divorce, something that nobody is talking about. And that I think it's real important because I have found my experience is that many attorneys take the long way around to get to the destination. And you are going to dispel some of the myths and give us some tactics and strategies to help us as we work with attorneys. So welcome, William Mandelbaum.
Nice to be back again, George. Always a pleasure.
Always good to have you here. So we are also going to place some links for things that you have written. We're going to put them down below. So I want the audience, anyone who's going through this, anyone who encounters this particular show on YouTube, just randomly, there are going to be some links down below that people can explore things further, some things that you have written that would be of benefit to them. Who will benefit from today's conversation? Tell me precisely.
Anybody who's contemplating a divorce, anybody who's in the middle of a divorce, or anybody who may be concerned about the amount of legal fees they're being charged. So that encompasses a wide range of people.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody in the past couple of days, and I remember when I was going through it, it was like this. Yes, I'm going to need a retainer of $2,500. I think, and that was well over 20 years ago. So now it's 5,000 or 10,000, right? I would imagine.
Depends on the state you're in.
Okay.
And it depends upon how complicated your divorce is likely to be.
If that includes custody issues as well. So when you add children to it, then it just takes it to another level. Yeah. All right. So start us out, sir.
All right. A tiny little disclaimer. I'm going to be talking about some of the things that some attorneys do. Doesn't mean every attorney does it. Doesn't even mean the majority of attorneys do it. But some definitely do, and you want to be aware of it. Now, before we even start talking about divorce, there's things you should be doing in your life anyway, which means this. Keep financial records, which means bank accounts, stock accounts, W-2s. Keep at least 3 years of them tax returns on file. If you have medical conditions, keep all your medical records on file. You want to do that anyway, but that stuff comes to play in a divorce, and it's nice to have it in advance. All right.
Why medical records? Explain that.
And I'm talking about New York law. It may be different in other states. One of the things they look at in the awarding of maintenance or alimony is the physical condition of the parties. Is someone able to work? Is someone limited in the kind of work they can do, either the recipient or the payor? So it's very important.
I see. Okay, because that does affect earning capacity as well, obviously.
The first thing you want to remember is you got to know the players. You don't have your lawyer as your therapist. You don't have your therapist as your lawyer, and neither one of them are your accountant. Now, your accountant and your attorney are very likely going to interact because they should, depending upon your financial situation. The therapist, no. The therapist is your own business. But if you're going to complain, and if you're going to editorialize, and you're going to go, woe is me with your attorney, that's not what he's trained for. And there's some guys will say, yeah, keep talking, baby. Yeah, you know, the clock's running. Don't do that. Save yourself some money. Use the therapist as a therapist. Don't use your attorney as a therapist. That's not what he's there for. I told my clients when they came in the first day, I said, look, this is going to be a very emotional issue. You're going to be on an emotional roller coaster. And guess what? The guy you're looking at right now is not the guy to help you with that. I take care of your legal stuff. That's what I'm trained to do. The rest of the stuff goes somewhere else. Somebody qualified. Like, if I knew you, I say qualified like George. Because you will save money by not wasting attorney time on irrelevancies. Okay?
Thousands of dollars.
The fact that your wife's a bitch, yeah, no kidding. That's why you're divorcing her. You don't have to keep saying it. You don't say, you know what she did? The attorney is interested in facts. He can spin it. He knows if he's any good. He knows how to spin it. He knows how to make her look like the evil bitch that she is and the wonderful guy that you are. Just give them the facts. Money you don't waste on crying to your attorney, it can be spent on more important things like economic issues, visitation, custody issues if they apply. All right, now, let's say you're shopping around for an attorney. You're going to look at various websites. Sometimes they have their hourly rate, a lot of times they won't. You want to read the articles they published on their site. If they haven't done any, you wouldn't go to them. When you call them up to make an appointment, here's what you want to do. You want to say, look, before the appointment, would you please send me your retainer agreement so I can review it? So if we're going to get together, I can sign it in your office. Now, doing it that way lets them know, okay, well, this guy's serious, number one. Number two, if I send it to him in advance, then I don't have to worry about him reading it for 10 hours in my office, wasting my time. If he doesn't do that, fuck him. Don't go. Let's assume he sent you the retainer agreement in advance. And if he didn't, and you go there, you take your time reading it. Don't let him rush you. If you want to, I want to come back, and if I want to sign with you, I'll sign with you. I want to read it. Because there are some guys, almost all guys have a minimum charge. Now, some attorneys say that minimum charge is 0.25 hours or 15 minutes. Fuck them. Can I say fuck on this thing?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. When I did, it was my minimum charge of 1/10 of an hour, 6 minutes. You don't want anything more than 1/10 of an hour for minimum charge. For example, if he sends you a quick email that says, don't forget next week we're in court, you don't want to pay 15 minutes for that. Right?
Right.
And 1/10 of an hour for that. Now, another thing, very important, is if you can, you want to negotiate that, hey, if you're meeting with an associate or if you're meeting with a partner, I don't want to be charged for 2 attorneys' time. And you tell them, I won't pay that. I'll pay for one guy. All right? Because a lot of times you'll see bills, consultation with Joe Blow, and they both attorneys' times. No. The other thing, very important, and usually you won't get an argument about this, is that time spent reviewing a bill is not chargeable to you.
Okay.
Right? Now, some jurisdictions may have mandatory arbitration clauses, which in English means if there's a dispute over fees, they have a certain amount of time to go to arbitration, file certain papers, and if they don't, then it can be a lawsuit. Again, that's going to be jurisdictionally dependent. Most attorneys I did charge for a travel time, which obviously in the days of COVID didn't matter, but do again. You want to work a deal in your retainer agreement with your attorney. If you're handling more than one matter when we go to court, and quite frequently we are, we may have 3 appearances. I'm not paying for more than 1/3 of the travel time, and I'm only paying for the time you actually spend on my case. Now, a legit attorney will say, fine. If you get a hard time with that, go elsewhere. Because there are guys out there who will have 3 different appearances on the same court and bill everybody the same amount of travel time.
Interesting. Triple dipping.
Yep. Got to watch out for that. Now,
you already,
ahead,
seriously, already you've already saved thousands of dollars just like with these tips already.
I think so, yeah.
And this stuff is found in your publication, is that correct?
Yeah, what I sent you, which is also was the text of the publication, yes. And again, some of this stuff is going to be jurisdictionally dependent, but you better get a written agreement for your divorce retainer, and usually it's mandatory in the jurisdiction anyway. Now, don't forget also, this is an unusual situation. This is an adversarial situation. So it's not like you go to your garage and you say, okay, it takes 5 hours to put this in, because there's a guy on the other side trying to fuck that up. So your attorney can't control all the hours because he doesn't know what the other guy's going to do. All right. So It's not just you and him. It's you, him, and the other son of a bitch that's against you. So remember that too.
Right.
All right. Let's go. Oh, another thing you want to. In some jurisdiction, it's mandatory. You have to have a minimum or a maximum time that you get a bill. In New York, I believe they have to bill you every 60 days. But you don't want to wait 6 months and get a bill that you owe the ranch. You want to get regular billing. I would try to negotiate for 30 days. Every 30 days, get a bill.
Okay.
And see how that retainer is getting down. Now, there are some attorneys who will do a replenishing retainer. In other words, let's say you put up 10 grand. Well, as they use time, even if there's money left over, you'll have to replenish that retainer back to 10 grand. Not everybody does that. I didn't. But don't be surprised if you see that now more and more. Or otherwise, it's just when you run out of the retainer, then you get billed and you got to pay it. So that's basically what you need to know about the retainer agreement. Do not rush signing it. Try to get it in advance of the appointment. If you can't, then you spend as much time as you want in that guy's office, or you tell him, look, let me read this over, I'll come back if I want to. There are less divorces happening now because less people are getting married. There is more mediation because people realize, hey, it's a better way to go. So you're more in a driver's seat now in dealing with the attorney as far as negotiation goes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't be an ass about it, but protect your rights. What I've told you, and George said it too, what I've told you can save you thousands. Now, the next, do you have any questions you want to ask, George? You want me to keep going?
Already, like I said, I think you've already saved men thousands of dollars already. What if someone has never been to an attorney? Many times guys, when they are thrust into the divorce world, that's the first time they've ever had to deal with an attorney. And they feel incompetent, and they're very vulnerable to almost anything a person says. I do want to highlight what you said about attorneys are not therapists, they're not accountants, and don't mix the roles like that. An attorney is very limited in his ability to bring you peace, calm, to help you sleep at night. He's there for one thing, to represent you in the case. Do not look to him for solace. I mean, they'll try.
The kind of solace I provided was, I didn't tell you to marry the bitch.
Yeah, exactly right.
No, and I told him right away, look, I'm not trained for it. Lawyers aren't trained for it. I don't know. I know one attorney who doesn't do divorce, and he does have an MA or an MS, whatever it is, in psychology. But the rest of us, no. I mean, could we counsel you on certainly because we've seen it a million times? Yeah, but we shouldn't be.
Right.
Right. You don't use a hammer when you need a screwdriver. Okay. Now, answering your question. First of all, the attorney's representing you. He has a fiduciary duty to you if you hire him. The worst question I think you can ask when you call a divorce attorney's office is, do you give a free consultation? Because the free consultation will be a 15-minute advertisement about how great he is, and you won't learn shit.
Mm-hmm.
You pay for your consultation. Now, what I used to do if I liked you was you paid me $300 for the consultation, and if you hired me, then I'd throw that in towards the bill.
Apply it, yeah.
But don't forget also, when I've had this happen, so a lot of attorneys happen, somebody will come in for a consultation just so the other side can't use you. Because once you give them a consultation, you can't represent the other side. I had that done to me. So they don't want to give free consultations. And lawyers, it's a business, folks, besides whatever else it is. We want people that can pay us because our creditors want to get paid too.
Sure. Just a reminder to the audience that Mr. Mandelbaum is very passionate about men's rights, about men, concerned about men getting screwed over in courts, and just in general in life. A bachelor himself, happy as can be, and has a lot of wisdom about being a bachelor, and no compulsion to run into a slaughterhouse. And you and I have talked privately about that in the past. So
marriage is the surest cure for romance, folks. Yeah. And it's always the cause of divorce. Now, on bills, let's talk about bills. I'm sorry, yes. No, I want to address the question you asked before. Don't be intimidated by going into a lawyer's office. As a matter of fact, if he makes you feel intimidated, don't use an attorney.
Right.
You have, especially in something as sensitive as divorce.
Yeah.
Which is more personal than criminal, and I've done both. You want to feel good about this guy. You want to feel secure. You don't want to go in and you don't want to go into his office like this. So you got to use your instinct. He's going to, assuming he's ethical, which, probably one or two guys are, he's going to let you know what the story is, let you know what the cost is as far as retainers and hourly rate. He can never give you an estimate of what the whole thing's going to cost because he doesn't know what the other side's going to do. And don't forget, there's a lot of other ancillary expenses. If you have real estate, if you have
that was brilliant, because you don't know what the other side is going to do. And there's always surprises, always.
There are ancillary expenses you may incur too. For example, real estate appraisals. If you have a professional license you gained during the marriage, appraising that value, which is expensive. If you have, unique collections, like I had a guy who was a big custard collector, and that was tough to get evaluated. Only a few guys can do that. So you're going to have other expenses, and if it's visitation issues or custody issues, you're going to have psychological expenses. You have what's called a law guardian that'll be appointed, which is a lawyer that represents the kids technically. So the more you save on your attorney, the better off you are. But don't go to a guy that makes you feel uncomfortable. If you go into that office and you feel like shit when you leave, don't go to him.
Mm.
I always
How
make
should
Go
how
ahead.
should I feel? How should a man feel? Should he tell me how a man should feel when he leaves an attorney's office?
I'll tell you how I think you should feel. Before your legal system became what it was, back in the days of Iron Men and wooden ships or whatever, there were champions. So in other words, if I was suing George was suing me, we would hire a guy to fight it out. And that's where we came from. So you want to feel like this guy is your champion.
Okay.
If you remember on the last show we did back in January, when women called me up, I said, look, I don't know if you want me or not, because I'm a men's rights guy. I wouldn't go to me if I were a woman. Meaning tell him I ain't gonna be your champion, bitch.
Sure.
You want to feel that way. You want to, hey, yeah, I'm glad I got this guy, which means he's got to have the experience, he's got to have the presence, he's got to have the cojones too. And he's got to know the system, he's got to know the judges in that county you're in.
Yeah, we don't want nice guys. We
No.
want to know that someone is. I mean, think about it. I guess if we're hiring someone to literally fight for us, I mean, if we had to hire someone to fight, we want someone who looks like they can fight. When it comes to hiring an attorney, I want the same thing.
People recommended me. They didn't say, "Oh, you should go." And by the way, speaking of evil, here's my Snidely Whiplash mustache in case anyone wants to see it. They evil. Anyway, they didn't say go to Mandelbaum. He's a really nice guy. No, they said you want a fucking prick, go to this guy. And they went, yeah. Because that's what you need. Now, the guy's got to be able to negotiate. He's got to be able to turn on and turn off emotions. Because it's theater. He's got to know how to talk to a judge. He's got to know all that shit. But you don't want a nice guy. I've been against nice guys. They lose.
Yeah.
You want an ethical guy. You want a guy who runs a clean shop. But you don't want Mary Poppins in your corner. Right now, you're going to get bills, of course. Here's some things you want to review. I'll tell you one quick war story. Let's represent a guy who lives in a fly neighborhood. He's got a couple of bucks to put together, maybe a couple of million of them. The other side's going after legal fees, and part of that motion, part of that application to the court requires an affidavit of services rendered. What you did, when you did it, how much time it took. And this firm was a real bunch of dairy farmers. They wanted to milk the client for all they can get. They were scumbags, basically. So they put in an affidavit of services, where one of the items is a 4-hour court appearance on Columbus Day. Now, two problems with that. One, nothing was scheduled for that day. And two, the courts were closed. So those jerk-offs didn't review their bill. So just with that alone, I got my client legal fees.
Mm-hmm.
You want to look at the bills. You want to make sure that if they're charging you for something, it's legit. For example, you have a phone conversation with your attorney. Time it. If it took you 5 minutes, or say 6 minutes, that's 1/10 of an hour, and he puts in a quarter of an hour, he's full of shit. Now, it may be a little more than the time that you recorded, because some guys, they'll dictate. I don't know if they dictate anymore. They'll make a reference to the file. Spoke with Joe Blow about this and that. Now, I do that when I'm talking. So if you see me, I'm retired now, but I did it when I was talking. So if a client spent 6 minutes on a phone, he saw a 6-minute bill. Because how long does it take to say, spoke with Joe about custody? So you don't want to see things that don't match up on phone time. Another thing you want to look at, and this is especially in the case where associates are working. In other words, there's partners, guys who own a shop, associates, the guys who work in the shop. And associates in law firms have a lot of pressure to do a lot of billables, sometimes $2,500 a year. And that's 2,500 billables. You can probably double that as far as how much time you spend at working.
Yeah.
You can't bill for everything. And the associates, a lot of times, because they're under pressure to do billables, will pay. You want to see something that makes sense. If a guy's doing something like, a motion to for temporary alimony, something like that, and he spends 20 hours on it, no. First of all, the firm you're going to, hopefully he's done a bunch of these before, and they're going to Frankenstein an agreement together. They're going to have to put the facts in, of course, but they'll have the law and everything else, and just mix and match. Less partners are going to do this. More associates are going to do this. Look at your bills and question it. You have the right to. Also, you want to watch out for what's called bundling. That's when you get
Hmm.
an item that says legal research, file review, spoke with partner. You want all those separately. You tell your attorney beginning when you meet with them, I don't want bundling. Don't bundle. I want everything itemized, date, time, what you did, and not three things lumped together, because that's where I'll pay it a lot of times. Speaking of which, legal research and file review, if you see those are, I mean, sometimes they're necessary, yes, but they are also clues that maybe you're getting padded.
Right. Right.
If you have a court appearance coming up, all you're going to do is give a status conference, which means, okay, this is where we are right now, and you see legal research for that. Why? You don't know? No, you don't need that. If you see file review, yeah, okay, for a few minutes. Now, if you're talking about a major application to court that requires a memorandum of law, that's a different story. But you want to take a look at your billing and say, okay, why did he do this? What was it for? If one of the things said, well, we prepare for a hearing, make sure there was a hearing after that. You know, always check. And those are the two big ones to look at: file review and legal research. Because
Is that something like a paralegal will do?
Well, they might have them doing it. I mean, you know, look, as lawyers try to cut expenses right now, and especially with computerized research and everything, we don't need paralegals. But if they have them, yeah, the paralegal may put the research together and do something.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned that, because you're also going to get billed for a different time. You're going to get billed for lawyer time at X. You're going to get associate time at X minus Y. You're going to get billed for paralegal time at a certain thing, and you're going to get billed for secretarial time at a certain thing, and you're going to get billed for a certain amount of copies too. You want to see, does it make sense? You know, what the hell are you paying the secretary? What are you paying the paralegal? I mean, there's a lot of paralegals are making what I charged when I was a lawyer in the bigger firms.
Right.
Are they worth it? No. They're not worth it. But they're profit centers for the firm.
Do you think it's better to hire an attorney who is in a solo practice, or
I would recommend solo with small firm, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because their reputation is more important. You don't want some guy who's in a major firm, he's just an add-on to the rest of the corporate shit they're doing, so they have a divorce guy. Sure. Now, you want a guy that practice emphasis on divorce and family law. You know, you want a guy who's been around the block.
Yeah.
You don't want him practicing on you.
Yeah.
All right, so you have these areas in your bills you're looking at. Here's another one. Now, there are a lot of court services that'll do work for us. For example, instead of me going to court to file an order to show cause, which is a shorter duration form of making a motion, asking the court for something, there are court services I can hire. Hey, go file the papers. Costs a hell of a lot less than attorney time. Now, some attorneys may use their associates and themselves to do this so they can bill for their time. Fuck that. You want to make a deal with the attorneys, you use the court service whenever you can. I don't want to pay you for a delivery boy.
Right.
I want to pay something a lot cheaper than that. Because they're not going to do it anyway. They're going to hire the guys anyway. I mean, you know, attorneys form corporation with a phone call. And then afterwards, they got to do some work too. But I mean, there are a lot of court services out there that can take care of this. The more you learn this, and you may want to take notes on this, you may want to see this video a bunch of times, and you're sure as I want to get my book, plug, you'll go in a lot more knowledgeable to that attorney. And he's going to think, you know, if he's the kind of guy that fucks around, he says, maybe I shouldn't fuck around with this guy too much. Because you can always complain about these guys. You know, and not to the Better Business Bureau either. An ethical complaint against or a fee dispute with attorneys is a serious matter. All right. Now, what else we got? Yes. In your case, assuming you have assets, you don't want an attorney to spend 1 million hours going through your financials. You don't want to give him a stack of paper like with the other hands, something like this, and have him review it, because he's going to build his shit out of you, and he should. Here's what you want to do. You make a summary of your financials. Say, for example, the last 3 years' tax returns. You put a summary in. This was the gross income. This was the adjusted gross income. If you have rental property, you give him a summary. These are the rents. These are the expenses. This is the net profit or net loss. Give him summary sheets. And then if he tries to bill you a ridiculous amount of hours for the financials, you say, oh, no. I gave you the summary sheets. You didn't have to go through all that stuff. And I ain't paying for that. Okay. One of the things you're going to fill out in a family court case or a divorce case is a statement of net worth or whatever your jurisdiction calls it. And instead of bothering the attorney about how to fill it out, there are going to be some assets there. You don't know what they're worth. So you don't call the attorney and say, gee, what do I do? What you do is you put in, depending upon your jurisdiction, you can put in TBD, to be determined, or subject to appraisal. And another thing you don't want to do is you don't want to call your attorney needlessly. For example, I mean, he should be telling you when in his court appearances, but let's say you forgot. Well, a lot of times there are online services for free, depending again on your jurisdiction. You can look that up. Or if not, you can call the clerk of that court and find out. And that way you're not spending legal money. The thing you're going to have to spend money on, if you have a pension, and I'm going to talk about an IRA, but if you're like a 403B, if you're a teacher, a 403, a 401k, what is it, 401k, those things, some of those things are going to have to get evaluated by professionals. That's going to cost you money. That's true. And you want to have documentation that show two things, again, dependent upon your jurisdiction. What was the value before the marriage, just before the marriage, and what was the value when the action started? Because in New York, a judge can put the gate down on asset accumulation when the action started or at trial time. In your jurisdiction, it may vary. But you definitely want to show what was a premarital asset. This way, there's not a lot of time wasted, attorney time wasted, arguing about it. If you contributed separate property to a house you bought, you want to have the records that show that. You don't want to argue about it. You want to have, yeah, black and white, here it is. So you can do a lot of things. Look at your retainer agreement, negotiate on your behalf, okay? Watch your billables. Don't use an attorney for a purpose he was not created for, and don't waste attorney time. Don't call needlessly, and keep good records and summarize them when you have to give them to your attorney. And if you do all that, eat your oatmeal and say your prayers at night, you will look exactly like me.
What about prenups? Now, for instance, when a guy is, there's many times that guys are faced with divorce, and one of the first things that goes through their head is, I should have had a prenup.
Yep. I mean,
does that affect any of this?
Yeah, it can if they're trying to challenge it. Depends on the circumstances on which the prenup was created. I mean, if you saw, I know you saw Sexton on that show.
Yes. And
he said your prenup, absolutely. Look, it's like asking a question. Do I want to carry a gun with bullets in it? Yes. Will it always work? No. But you want to have it. You want to have the prenup. And if the prenup busts up your marriage before it starts, you say a prayer for the prenup. Because the only thing she was looking for was a retirement plan called you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're nuts if you don't have a prenup.
It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Video that went around last week, it was pretty viral. I forget how many views he has right now. The one that you just mentioned.
Sexton.
Man, four different people sent that to me. 4 different people.
See, that's the kind of guy you'd want as a divorce attorney. Besides,
you would.
Because I'm retired. He's got the presence, he's got the brains, he's got the personality, he's got 20 years of knowledge, he said. That's the guy you're looking for. Plus, he's doing New York City courts, which are a little rough and tumble. So that's the kind of guy you'd want.
Okay.
I'm retired, of course. Otherwise, I'd be the kind of guy you want, folks.
Right. You don't want a nice guy. You want a shark. You want someone who plays tough. Yeah.
Top deep, baby. Yep. But who can also be nice and play the role.
Yeah.
For example, I would take an Eastern approach to argument with attorneys. In other words, instead of when they go bark, 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 I didn't go bark, bark, bark. When they came on heavy, I came on light. When they come in light, I came on heavy. They were confused by that.
Yeah.
They weren't used to it, and I used it as a manipulation tool. Because a lot of it is manipulation. Plus, my military background was very useful in litigation.
As far as what, protocol and such?
No, as far as number one, planning, preparing, and war gaming. If he does this, I do that. If I do this, will he do that?
Right.
So you want to know your attorney's background, but like I said, if you can find a guy like that guy Sexton, yeah, you're doing good.
Okay.
Sexton, you owe me for this.
Yeah, I'll send it to him.
He's going to say, who the hell is this guy? He doesn't know me.
So what is the takeaway from our conversation? What is, I know you just went down some of the bullet points. Give those again.
First of all, remember who's who. Remember what professional does what. Your accountant does your taxes, your lawyer does your law, and your therapist does your head. Don't use the guys for the wrong purpose. Don't use a hammer when you need a screwdriver, because the money you save will be your own. Next, negotiate your retainer along the lines we spoke about. And again, if you don't remember this time of the video, just see it again. Number 3, check your billings for honest mistakes and for intentional mistakes. Because don't forget, these are prepared normally by secretaries or paralegals who may not be the brightest.
And request 30-day billing if you can.
Why not? I mean, he's going to get paid faster.
Right.
When I billed my clients, I didn't bill every 30 days. As soon as it was done, I billed them. 2 weeks later, I followed up. They didn't pay within 2 weeks. They got a call. And collections weren't bad. But yeah, you want 30 days. And if you got half a fucking brain, so does he. You also have to realize that a lot of the expenses may not be generated because of your attorney, but because of what he has to do to respond to the other side's actions. There are a lot of dirty guys out there. There are a lot of guys who pull wicked shit at the last minute. So, he's got to respond to that, which means he's got to charge you for it. And the other thing is, don't engage in unnecessary contact. If your attorney's any good, he's going to tell you what's going on. You don't call him up what's happening. And if he doesn't get a hold of you in a couple of months and send you an email, this is what the status is, then you call him up and say, come on, pay attention to me. You want to get paid on time? I want to be treated like a fucking, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it. You do all those things, you're going to save a fortune.
Does it help? Do you think it helps if the attorney had gone through a divorce himself? I mean, there's the probability that a certain percentage of attorneys that you would hire will have gone through divorce themselves.
A big percentage. Because a lot of times, I can tell you the truth. See, we're not allowed to stop our divorce clients while they're our divorce clients. But I know guys who, as soon as they finish representing the Fox, they marry her. I know guys done it a couple of times. They're out of their minds. They should know better. But yeah, it's in one sense, it's a good idea. Yeah. I mean, was it a downside with me because I never got married? No, because I lived with women, I had experience with women. I've done hundreds of divorces. There weren't surprises, what you're feeling, what you're not feeling. Okay. Yeah, that was case 101. That was case 102. So it can help, it's not a major factor. Because he knows you're getting fucked.
You wrote something. Tell us about it. Some kind of book, a guide. Tell us. Well,
the most relevant one, for some strange reason, is called How to Save Thousands of Dollars of Legal Fees in Your Divorce 2.0. It's the second iteration of it. It'll cost you like $2.99, and I guarantee it's going to save you more than $2.99. And the other one, which is something we mentioned on the last show in January, for guys who've already been through the process of divorce, the Born Again Bachelor's Bible, which tells you how to survive and thrive after you got rid of that ball and chain.
Both of those links will be down below.
Quick reads, folks.
Yeah.
And you'll find them useful.
Here's a question for you real quick. And thank you for those links. And thank you for your service to men. I don't know if anyone has ever officially said that, without handing you a check.
Yeah, you don't get too many thank yous in law land. Very rare.
I just want to say thank you for your service to men. It's super important. It's inspiring.
You served in the military. You can thank me for that service.
And thank you for that service as well. Absolutely. Many divorces fall into certain categories. Describe some of the types of divorces, types of cases.
All right.
Like 20% fall into this category where she wants everything. Another percentage, where she says, take everything, I just want out. Explain some of those things.
First of all, you have your couples that have no kids, no assets. That's an uncontested divorce. It's not to fight over. Then there are the people that are trying to use economic issues as revenge for emotional hurt. That's where it can get expensive.
Ooh, say that again. Trying to use.
In other words, they're fighting over an asset only because they want to bust your ass because you ruined their life, they think.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, you got caught cheating with the secretary. Okay, I'm fighting over the parakeet, that kind of thing.
Right.
Then a very, very small percentage of people are sane and reasonable. A very small percentage.
Yeah.
We had a saying in law: criminal court is where the worst guys are on their best behavior, and divorce court is where the best guys are on their worst behavior. And a lot of times, divorce cases spill over to criminal court.
Yeah.
But I found it because I didn't want uncontested divorces. They were boring. Did I do a couple for friends? Yeah, but they're boring. They're not dramatic. But the contested ones, oh, there's a lot of hate going on there. And then they go through the cycle. Well, maybe I should give in. And I say no, because there's money involved. Not with me, with them. Or I should do this, or I don't care anymore. I said, yeah, fucking care. Because after you don't care anymore and knuckle under, next year you'll be going, how come you let me do this?
Right.
I have had clients, a lot of them are cops too sometimes. They just knuckle under, which you wouldn't think, but they do. And then a couple of years later, and I tell them in writing, don't do this, wrong. A couple of years later, they say, you bum, how come you let me do this? I said, remember this piece of paper you signed, you turd? You know?
What about,
yes.
You know how they'll say something like, you'll see someone not answer any questions to asked by police officers, and someone will say immediately, I want to talk to an attorney. I'm not going to say anything. I want to talk to my attorney. I want to see my attorney. Does that apply to divorce? For instance, the day that she says, I want out of this marriage, at that point, do you just stop talking? What do you think?
You just asked a $64,000 question. That's the best question to ask, because I tell my clients, once it's lawyer time, you want to talk to her about the weather, about what's for dinner? Yeah. Do not discuss marital issues. And I got to keep telling them that and telling them that. Shut the fuck up about what you're willing to do. That's what you're paying me, and that's what she's paying the other guy for. Because even if you think at the kitchen table you've made a deal, she talks to her attorney and he goes,
Right.
So right on. Right. Absolutely right, George.
Yeah. And is it one of those things where everything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law? Is that, would you say that applies?
There's a lot of times that, these guys and women too, going back and forth with emails, calling themselves scumbags, motherfuckers, and all that shit. Yeah, that can come back to haunt you. Or if there's documentation about problems with visiting the kids or seeing the kids, or she or he are doing stupid shit, yeah, come back to haunt you.
Yeah.
On the show I was on with you before, I told you about this one woman who was trying to fight for sole custody after divorce. And we beat her on that. But she was also bright enough to put a whole bunch of Instagram pictures of herself dressed like a fucking whore. And if she tries again to get sole custody, that might come into court.
Interesting.
Which is another point of view. Keep your mouth shut on social media about your divorce. Put a complete kibosh on social media about your divorce. An iron curtain.
Right.
Another thing too. This is not directly related to saving money, but don't go around asking guys who've been divorced and they'll say, well, I got this or I got that. Every fact pattern is different. Every judge is different, and the law changes. Because if you keep going back to your attorney and says, well, hey, Fred got this or Sam got this, he's going to do what I do with those people. He's going to get rid of you.
How many divorces are emotionally charged?
Most of them.
Almost like the divorce is, what she's asking for is like payback for when you were mean to me or when you kissed the secretary or something like that.
And don't forget, and this has been talked about many times everywhere. Marriage is basically, and I'm being a little facetious, but not too much, the men are exchanging cash for the gash. Women are looking at us like we're ATMs. And when they get divorced, they don't want that ATM to end. You said on one of your shows, what woman ever said to you, let me support you, you can stay at home, right?
Yeah.
Answer, zero.
Yeah, zero. Yeah, we are wired in this. We are wired for that.
Yeah, we're the protectors.
And we have to unwire ourselves for it. I know that's something that I have struggled with. All of a sudden, every strong, independent woman, like my attitude is, okay, you're a strong, independent woman. Well, open up your own door with your strong, independent arms. And then everybody in court claims to be weak and a victim and this kind of thing.
Oh, I had one. She would go to court, and she'd be going to court with one of, can I show, where is this on this thing here? With one of these, a cane, right? Yeah. And I would watch her go up the stairs like she was, who's the Jesse Owens or somebody. I mean, no problem at all. But she goes to the court, that shit. Yeah. I would tell the judge, hey, I just saw her walking up the stairs. She was fine. Yeah, they try to pull a victim. I tell the clients, leave the Rolex at home, put on a Timex.
Right.
A lot of it is theater, a lot of it is bullshit, but it's got very important consequences, especially when children are involved.
How does that complicate a case?
If there's a dispute over visitation and custody issues, and it frequently is, and sometimes that's basically just to fuck with the guy because you're mad at him, and sometimes it's legit, you're going to have forensic investigations by psychologists. You're going to have a law guardian appointed that you're going to pay for. If you can't work it out, you're going to have hearings. It's important, but it's a lot of money.
Children are the prize and the weapon.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. I've seen women use, and I haven't seen men do this, I've seen women use visitation and custody as a hammer and a nail.
Yeah.
As a lever.
Yep.
Not that they really give a shit about the kid.
Right.
I think I told you, I had one case that while it was going on, the guy's daughter became his son.
Yeah. Crazy.
Which made it a little more difficult to shop for.
Wow.
All kinds of crazy shit. All kinds of bogus allegations. It's a dirty business. Which is why I liked it.
So you have saving thousands on legal fees going through divorce. That's the first publication.
Amazon Kindle. It's an ebook, quick read, study it, worship it, put it under your pillow.
And the second one is
Born Again Bachelor's Bible.
Born Again Bachelor's Bible.
That's what happens after you're through this process and you want to start living life again.
Gotcha. Excellent. Excellent. Are you willing to come back on again and continue the conversation?
Right away. As far as these issues go, you're the only guy I will go on. So absolutely.
Okay.
Now I'm doing something on another channel. I'm not going to plug it on domestic violence, but that's something different. But these kind of men's issues, you're the only one getting it because you're the best guy for men's issues. You're the guy that brings other people on and doesn't say the same shit every episode.
Yeah. Hey, tell us about, you have another thing coming up. Do you mind talking about that? The domestic violence thing? You want to give a plug to that?
Well, I don't make a can. It's a very tiny show. It's a new show. On August 20th at 8:30 p.m., myself and a self-proclaimed woman expert on domestic violence are going to be talking, not a debate really, but talking about these issues. That's August 20th, 8:30 p.m. It's the Tony Silo Show. That's TonySilo. And that is going to be what's called StreamYard. That's going to be live.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you can want to ask questions, make comments, just keep them respectful. Don't be stupid.
Sure.
And again, usually I don't want to come on and plug somebody else's show, but yes. So.
Well, you're going to be on it. You're going to be an important voice. And I got to tell you this, you are such an important voice in the men's community. I can't even begin to tell you.
Okay.
That men going through this kind of stuff really need to hear what you have to say. Now, you're no longer practicing law. Is that correct?
Not officially, no. Do I give some pro bono advice to people? Yeah, that's not an invitation, folks. But I'm basically legally retired with New York State. We have to file papers and you check off a box, retired. And then you don't have to continuing ed and pay the fee and all that shit.
Right. Right.
But I was active it was really active for 35 years. I was partially active for a total of 41 years. I know it's hard to believe I look so young, but yeah, I did.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you again for giving up your time. And
thank you for having me on.
What would be the next topic of the next show? What do you think would be important when I have you on again?
How to murder you? No, I'm kidding, folks. I would talk about dirty tricks. Divorce dirty tricks.
Excellent.
There are some very important ones that you have to be aware of. I'm not saying use them, but you have
Yeah.
to be aware because a woman will use it.
Yeah.
And it's probably a lot of your guys who are in the process have already been through or been a victim of these.
Many of them have. Many of them have.
And so you and I have a good rapport because we know each other through the internet for 7 years, and in our regular on our non-published conversations, we think a lot alike.
Sure.
So you and I are a good team for this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for being on. We're going to do it again. We're going to talk about dirty tricks next time. And I'll say to the audience as well that Mr. Mandelbaum is also a pipe and cigar aficionado. And tell us, what is your favorite pipe tobacco? And what is your favorite pipe?
Well, as you know, George, my favorite tobacco is Syrian Latakia, which you can't get anymore. And I'm sending you a little bit more. For people who are pipe smokers, in case you don't know, Latakia or Latakia, however you pronounce it, was a port city in Syria. And what Latakia was, it was the Oriental tobaccos were hung over a smoky wood fire, and that's how they were processed. Well, because of the problems in Syria now, your Latakias come from Cyprus. That's good too, but it ain't the same thing.
It's not the same.
And if you come across Syrian, it's going to be a lot older, a lot mellower, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as favorite pipes, I got about 56 pipes in my collection, and they all have a different purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are certain tobaccos that are for certain moods. Some may be contemplative, some may be just to relax, and there are different pipes for different moods also.
Yes.
How many pipes do you have?
Probably about the same.
Yeah. So
I haven't counted, but it's probably about the same. Yeah.
I mean, look, there's certain pipes, for example, if you want to sit home and read a book by a fireplace, you use a Churchill. You know, that's the best for it. You don't bring a meerschaum out on the job.
Right.
You know, a corn cob is when you want to test something. You don't want to pollute a pipe in case you don't like it.
Right. Do you like a straight pipe, a straight billiard, or do you kind of like something with like a little bend in it?
I like both. Again, it depends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have calabashes. I got 2 calabashes before they became expensive.
Yeah.
I have some pipes. Well, I have one pipe that's from the 19th century. Most of my pipes are over 40 years old. Some of them are over 50 years old. But yeah, you know, it depends. Now, they're all, as you know, depending upon your physique and the size of your face, you might be better with a round pipe, a bent pipe, or a straight pipe.
Yeah.
But they're all good.
And do you usually, when you have a pipe, do you usually pair it with some type of beverage?
Yeah. Now, I mean, look, and the same thing with cigars. A lot of us like to have an alcoholic beverage with smoking. It's the worst thing you can do. I mean, it's fun. Worst thing you can do health-wise. So if you don't want to do that, number one, various kinds of coffee. Like you like Ethiopian, so do I. I like Guatemalan. I like what's the one with the S? Matrin. Those are all good. There are different types of teas I recommend, like Lapsang Souchong, Russian Caravan, Darjeeling could be one. It depends upon it. But these are safe to match with tobacco products, and they're good for you.
You're the one that turned me on to drinking tea with a pipe, and it just would never occur to me to have tea, and that has been an absolute joy, pairing different teas. Actually, you turned me on to Constant Comment, which is magnificent with a pipe, absolutely magnificent.
And you know, I mean, if you're talking about booze, you know, there are different kinds of booze you can do too. Depends on the time of year, depends on the heat, depends on what you're smoking. But it's terrible for your mouth, terrible for your tongue. Do the research on it if you don't believe me, folks. It's a great way to increase your chances of having bad things happen. Yeah. Do them separately, don't do them together. Yeah. Yeah. Especially when you get to be an old mother like me, where you know you never know when your last day's going to be.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I mean,
well, thanks.
I got a guy to the side chasing me, you know, with a black hoodie chasing me, going after me.
The Grim Reaper.
Yep.
That's funny.
What's so grim, folks?
Well, thanks.
Clarity and
thanks
reason.
for being on.
Sanity, clarity, reason, right here.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you being on, and we're going to do dirty tricks next. The collective wisdom between you and I when we are talking. What a great combo to help men just get their feet firmly planted on the ground.
You got the therapist and the lawyer.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.